In a Marvel universe where everything that can go wrong went wrong, we see a journalist called Philip telling us how the Silver Surfer died to the shock of not being able to breathe like he once did as a human, while Daredevil got eaten alive by the chemicals and the incident that originally gave him his powers, which also kinda happened to Bruce Banner as the Gamma accidentally turned him into a giant mess of tumors. The Avengers, however, decided to separate California from the rest of the US and therefore had their jet bombed up by the government and the help of Scarlet Witch, who betrayed her friends and ultimately had Black Panther locked up and Hawkeye shot in the head. Wolverine's adamantium poisoned his bones, making his body full of scars, and is being used to attract customers at a bar. However, later when Philip gets to talk to Nick Fury, who basically explains that he's seen it all until an underage Jean Grey pulls up offering to do anything for 20 bucks, which was the tipping point for Fury, as he then shoots her in the head and ends himself right after, where a newspaper showing Galactus floating dead in space laid around. Philip then makes his way and ends up coming across Frank Castle's body on the ground before getting on a plane and sitting beside Mystique, who coincidentally dies due to the identity disorder she had developed from her shape-shifting. When Philip, however, gets off the plane, the security pushes a guy that just happened to be Magneto, whose magnetic device was then disturbed, causing him to pull a whole plane into himself and die. Philip nonetheless gets to a prison where we find out that Charles Xavier is the US president and that he and Kingpin have been imprisoning all the mutants to use them for experiments like plucking Cyclops' eyes out, for instance. Donald Blake, however, was considered a crazy junkie who claims to have seen Thor and been acting like him ever since. Johnny Blaze performs a stunt where he dips his head in gasoline only to mess up as he then rides away with his head on fire. The Fantastic Four rushed their trip to space and therefore end up dying in horrific ways up there, except for Ben Grimm, who refused to explore space with them. But after Philip gathered all of those stories, we find out that he's sick because he once shook the hand of Peter Parker, who had gotten a mutant virus from a spider, and thus simply dies realizing that he ran out of pills for his illness.